Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the channel Biblical Chronicles. If you are new here, kindly subscribe the channel. How the Ethiopian Bible reveals the mysterious signs of Judgment Day. Deep in the heart of the Ethiopian highlands, nestled between ancient monasteries and towering mountains, an aged priest named Abba Tesfaye guarded a sacred secret. He was the keeper of an ancient manuscript, a book hidden from the world for centuries, the Book of Signs, an apocryphal text written in the ancient Ge'ez language. Legends whispered that this book contained prophecies foretelling the signs of Judgment Day, recorded long before the world had fallen into its modern chaos. Few knew of its existence, and fewer still had ever laid eyes on its pages. But the time had come for its revelations to be unveiled. The arrival of the scholar one stormy evening, as thunder rumbled over the Lalibela rock-hewn churches, a young scholar named Mikias Alemu arrived at the monastery. He had spent years deciphering lost Ethiopian scriptures and had heard whispers of the hidden book from a dying monk in Aksum. "I seek knowledge," Mikias told Abba Tesfaye as they sat before a flickering oil lamp. "I have traced ancient prophecies, and all lead me here." The old priest studied him for a long moment, his deep-set eyes searching for deceit. Then, with a nod, he rose and retrieved a heavy, dust-covered manuscript bound in cracked leather. He placed it before Mikias and whispered, "The world must be ready for what is written within." The prophecies unveiled. As Mikias carefully turned the pages, his breath caught in his throat. The text detailed 7 signs that would mark the beginning of the end times, mirroring but expanding upon the warnings of the book of Revelation. The sky will bleed. The book foretold a time when the heavens would turn red, and an eclipse would cast the world into unexpected darkness. The earth's lament, mountains would crumble, and rivers would run dry, signaling the planet's suffering. The false shepherds, leaders would arise, claiming divine wisdom while leading many astray. The call of the horn. A great sound, like that of a shofar or trumpet, would be heard across nations, yet no one would know its source. The awakening of the saints. The righteous, long thought dead, would rise and walk among the living. The book of the heavens. Ancient texts lost to time would be rediscovered, revealing knowledge meant only for the worthy. The final trial. A celestial fire would descend, separating the pure from the wicked. As Mikias read, his hands trembled. Many of these signs had already begun. Strange blood moons, collapsing ecosystems, and charismatic figures leading nations into darkness. But the 6th sign, the Book of the Heavens, was happening now. This very manuscript was resurfacing, and he was chosen to bear its knowledge. The final revelation, Abba Tesfaye placed a hand on Mikias's shoulder. "You must take this knowledge to the world, but be warned. Many will seek to silence you. The final trial is near." With a heavy heart, but renewed purpose, Mikias set off on his journey, carrying the ancient wisdom of Ethiopia with him. He knew that what lay ahead would not be easy, for revealing the secrets of Judgment Day was not merely an act of scholarship, it was a test of faith, courage, and destiny. And as he stepped beyond the monastery gates, the wind howled through the valleys like an unearthly horn, echoing the very prophecies he had just read. The sky will bleed. The prophecy's words echoed in Mikias's mind as he read them aloud. And the heavens shall turn crimson, and the world will stand in fear, for the hour of reckoning is near. It spoke of a celestial event unlike any before, when the sky itself would become a harbinger of doom. Not just a simple eclipse or a passing blood moon, but an eerie transformation, an omen that would grip humanity with terror. Legends from Ethiopia's oldest monks told of a time when the sun would burn a deep red at midday, casting an unnatural glow across the land. Birds would fall silent, and the air would grow heavy with a metallic scent. The prophecy warned that rivers would reflect the crimson sky like blood, and in that moment, those who had turned away from righteousness would feel an unbearable heat upon their skin. Scholars in the past had debated its meaning. Was it a sign of war, of atmospheric catastrophe, or something more divine? Some believed it foretold a great cosmic alignment, when celestial bodies would shift, disturbing the balance of light and darkness. Others feared it meant an unseen force would unleash a plague of fire across the earth, scorching lands and turning cities into ash. But as Micheas studied the scripture, a cold realization settled over him. Reports from different parts of the world spoke of strange red skies, unexplained shifts in the sun's brilliance, and an increasing number of solar storms. Could it be that the prophecy was already unfolding? If the sky was beginning to bleed, then the first sign of Judgment Day was no longer a distant warning. It was here, and the world was unprepared for what would follow. The earth's lament. The second sign was more terrifying than the first, for it spoke of the earth itself crying out in agony. The mountains shall tremble, the rivers shall dry, and the ground shall open its mouth to swallow the wicked. Micheas read the words carefully, his mind racing with the weight of their meaning. It foretold a time when nature would rebel against humanity, when the very ground beneath their feet would shake with anger, and the waters that sustained life would vanish. The earth, once a nurturing mother, would become a judge, punishing those who had defiled it. The prophecy described vast earthquakes that would split cities in two, swallowing towers and temples alike. In distant lands, great mountains would crumble without warning, their ancient peaks collapsing into dust. The rivers that once flowed abundantly would dry up, leaving behind cracked wastelands where nothing could grow. Famine and thirst would spread like a curse, and people would wander the earth in search of salvation, only to find desolation. Abba Tesfaye, the old priest, placed a trembling hand on the manuscript. "This is already happening," he whispered. "Have you not heard of the great lakes shrinking, of earthquakes shaking places where there were none before?" Indeed, Micheas recalled the news, droughts consuming the Horn of Africa, entire villages abandoned because the land could no longer sustain them. The ground had begun to crack in Ethiopia's Rift Valley, and strange fissures appeared in places untouched by time. Could it be that the earth's lament had already begun? The words of the prophecy no longer felt like a distant warning. They were a mirror of reality, and Micheas knew that worse was yet to come. The false shepherds. The prophecy's third sign sent a chill down Micheas' spine. "Beware the false shepherds, for they will come clothed in light, yet their hearts are full of darkness. They shall lead many astray, and the blind will follow them to destruction." This warning was clear. There would come a time when deception would reign, when leaders, preachers, and rulers would claim divine wisdom, but would instead serve their own greed and power. They would speak in honeyed words, promising salvation, but their actions would sow division, corruption, and chaos. Micheas thought of the world as it was now. He had seen self-proclaimed prophets rise in different lands, gathering massive followings with promises of wealth and miracles. He had seen leaders who wrapped themselves in religion, using faith as a tool to control the masses while they lived in excess and sin. In politics, in churches, even in the highest seats of power, men and women who claimed to be servants of the people ruled with deception. The prophecy described how these false shepherds would gain influence. They would twist the sacred texts, altering divine laws to fit their desires. They would manipulate the weak and desperate, selling them false hope in exchange for loyalty. Some would claim to be messengers of God, performing great signs and wonders, but their power would not come from the heavens. It would be a trick, a shadow of true divinity designed to lead souls into darkness. Abba Tesfaye sighed, his voice heavy with sorrow. The flock is already lost, Mikias. They follow wolves dressed as lambs, and they do not see the danger. Mikias clenched his fists. If the third sign was already unfolding, then Judgment Day was closer than anyone dared to believe. The call of the horn. Mikias's eyes widened as he read the fourth sign of Judgment Day. And in the final days, a great sound shall fill the earth, a horn unknown to men. It will echo across mountains and seas, yet none will know its source. The faithful will tremble, for they will hear the voice of the heavens. The wicked will cower, for they will know their time is short. This was no ordinary sound. The prophecy described a mysterious horn, one that would not be blown by human hands, but by forces beyond mortal understanding. It would shake the foundations of the earth, causing even the strongest to fall to their knees. Legends from Ethiopia's oldest monasteries spoke of the trumpet of the archangel, a divine instrument whose blast would signal the beginning of the final reckoning. Some believed it was the same horn mentioned in the book of Revelation, the one that would herald the opening of the seven seals. Others feared it was the lost sound of the ancient shofar, once used to call nations to war, now summoning the world to its last battle. But the most terrifying part of the prophecy was this: the sound would come suddenly, without warning. It would be heard in the dead of night, in the heat of day, in cities, and in wilderness alike. Some would believe it was thunder. Others would dismiss it as an illusion. But those who understood its meaning would weep, for they would know that the final trial was near. Mikias recalled recent news. Strange trumpet-like sounds had been reported across the world, from deserts to great cities. No scientist could explain them. His hands trembled. Had the call of the horn already begun? The awakening of the saints. Mikias' breath caught in his throat as he read the fifth sign. And in the last days the righteous shall rise from their rest. They shall walk among the living, and their voices shall proclaim the coming of the Lord. Many will see and believe, but others will deny, for their hearts will be hardened against the truth. The prophecy spoke of an event that defied nature, the return of the saints. Not in spirit alone, but in form. The holy men and women who had long since passed would awaken, their presence a final warning to the world. Ethiopian traditions told of the sleeping saints, holy figures whose bodies had never decayed, resting in hidden monasteries, waiting for the appointed hour. It was said that in the end times these saints would rise and walk again, bringing with them words of prophecy and judgment. The faithful would recognize them, while the doubters would call them illusions or trickery. Mikias recalled the stories of Saint Yared, the legendary composer of Ethiopia's sacred hymns, and the 9 saints who had brought Christianity to the land. If they were to rise, what would they say? Would they bring blessings or warnings? Some interpretations of the prophecy hinted at a deeper meaning. Perhaps the awakening was not physical, but spiritual, that the wisdom of the saints, long buried, would be rediscovered. Ancient texts, hidden relics, and lost teachings would come to light, guiding the righteous in the final days. But one thing was certain: whether through flesh or through knowledge, the saints would awaken. Their presence would be undeniable, and the world would be forced to confront the truth. Judgment Day was upon them. The book of the heavens. Mikias' hands trembled as he turned to the 6th sign of Judgment Day. And in the final days, the hidden book shall be revealed. The words of the heavens, long sealed, shall come to light. Those with wisdom shall understand, but the proud shall scoff, blind to the truth before them. This prophecy spoke of a sacred text, the book of the heavens, a divine manuscript that had been concealed for centuries, waiting for the appointed time. It was said to contain knowledge so powerful that only the worthy could comprehend it. Some believed it was an ancient scripture lost to time, while others claimed it was a book yet to be written, one that would appear as a final warning before the end. Ethiopian monks had long spoken of hidden texts buried deep within the ancient monasteries of Aksum and Lalibela. Some whispered that the Ark of the Covenant itself contained celestial writings, unseen by human eyes for thousands of years. Others believed the Book of Enoch, a scripture excluded from most Bibles but preserved in Ethiopia, held the key, its visions of heaven, fallen angels, and divine judgment aligning eerily with the signs of the end. In recent times, archaeologists had unearthed mysterious scrolls, and astronomers had deciphered cosmic patterns unknown to ancient civilizations. Could these discoveries be the fulfillment of the prophecy? Was the Book of the Heavens not just a manuscript, but also a revelation written in the stars? Mikias' heart pounded. If the hidden knowledge was emerging, then time was running out. The heavens had begun to speak, and those who refused to listen would be left in darkness when the final judgment arrived. The final trial Mikias swallowed hard as he read the last and most terrifying prophecy. And the heavens shall burn, and the earth shall tremble. A fire not of man shall descend, separating the pure from the wicked. This shall be the final trial, and there shall be no turning back. The ancient text spoke of a cataclysmic event, the last and ultimate test, one that would leave no room for doubt, deception, or escape. It would not be a war waged by nations, nor a disaster caused by human hands. It would be divine, unstoppable, and absolute. The prophecy described a great fire descending from the heavens, consuming all that was impure. Some believed it would be a celestial event, perhaps a great meteor, a solar storm, or a phenomenon beyond human understanding. Others feared it was a spiritual fire, one that would not burn the flesh but would expose the truth in every soul, marking the righteous and condemning the wicked. The mountains would shake, cities would fall, and the sky would split open. The ground would become unstable, swallowing those who had built their empires on greed and lies. No fortress, no wealth, and no power could protect them. Only faith and righteousness would stand in the face of the final trial. Ethiopian monks often spoke of Kenat, the moment of ultimate judgment, where each soul would face the truth of its deeds. The final trial would be this reckoning, a moment when all would be laid bare before the divine. Michias clenched his fists. If the first 6 signs had already begun, then this trial was near, and when it arrived, there would be no more warnings, only judgment, and the world was not ready. Conclusion: the hour of reckoning. Michias closed the ancient manuscript, his breath unsteady. The weight of the prophecy pressed upon him like an unseen force, heavy with the truth of what was to come. The signs were no longer distant warnings buried in forgotten texts. They were unfolding now, before the eyes of an unprepared world. He turned to Abba Tesfaye, whose gaze burned with both sorrow and conviction. "What must I do?" Michias asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The old priest exhaled slowly. "The world will deny the truth, but you must not. Take this knowledge and speak, even when others refuse to listen. For those with ears to hear, let them hear, and those who shut their eyes to the truth, let them be judged by it." Outside, the wind howled through the monastery walls, whispering like a voice from the heavens. The sky had begun to darken with a strange, unnatural hue. The earth trembled beneath them, subtle yet undeniable. The echoes of distant horns carried on the air, too faint to be fully grasped, yet eerily familiar. The signs were here. Michias knew that once he left these sacred walls, he would walk into a world unwilling to believe until it was too late. But the truth was no longer a mystery. It was a warning. The final trial was near. The book of the heavens had been revealed. The saints would awaken. And soon the sky would bleed one last time. With the weight of destiny upon his shoulders, Michias stepped forward. The time of prophecy had ended. The time of reckoning had begun. Kindly subscribe the channel for the further biblical truth and stories. Thanks for watching.